In the Gun, episode number 22, a TCU recap for you here. Wesley Euler, Jed Drenning, the signal caller. We're going to be joined momentarily by the runaway beer truck, Owen Schmidt. Jed, partner, we have got a lot to get to here on this episode 22, so no time to waste. This episode is brought to you by our friends at BetOnline, folks. Basketball is back, and BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting needs this season. You always find the latest odds, team matchup information, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. And it's your continued source for all sports wagering information. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and giveaways all season long. It's always the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports and events, whether that's the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, college sports, MMA, tennis, boxing, and even golf. So head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE when you sign up to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. BetOnline, where the game begins. Jed, as always, we're going to pull up the top 25 poll here as well, too, and take a look at some moving and shaking across the college football landscape. Anything standing out to you here, partner?
Well, the showdown, this weekend, you got the showdown between Georgia and Tennessee. You got number twos. Not often you see that. I thought that was kind of interesting to see Tennessee and Ohio State land there. Some of this stuff's obviously going to sort itself out. You got the first playoff rankings coming out this week as well, which, according to them, they don't let these polls influence them, but I'm sure there's some level of that that's infused or baked into the equation. TCU sitting there at number 7, which, depending on how you look at resumes, again, is TCU a perfect team? No, but I think they're a team that's unscathed, they're unbeaten, and they got a pretty good resume. They had 4 straight wins over teams that were at the time ranked. So, I mean, if you've ever put together a top 25 poll, I just made up the word putting. If you ever put together a top 25 poll, you start to recognize that maybe outside of a couple teams, it's really a collection of teams that are the least flawed, okay? Yes. Because all of them have flaws. It's just a matter of degree. I'm not so sure TCU, maybe, again, it'll sort itself out, but maybe it shouldn't be a slot or 2 higher. Yeah. Just based on the fact they knocked off 4 straight ranked teams. So from a resume standpoint, but it's not like that's going to matter here in a couple weeks. These teams are going to start beating themselves just the way the matchups fall. But Oklahoma State, they fell to 18th, and that's being kind, right?
Man,
we'll get to that here after a bit.
I did not see that coming.
Yeah, we'll get to that here after a bit. And Kansas State climbed to 13. So here come the Wildcats. That's just a crazy development with a backup quarterback and the whole 9 yards. But yeah, from a Big 12 perspective, pretty interesting. But again, it's also intriguing to me that an Oregon team that got their doors blown off 49-3 in that opener has rebounded and now climbed their way back to number 8, back into the top 10. So anyway, that's just a couple things that stood out to me.
If you're going to get your doors blown off, week 1's the time to do it right there for Oregon. They've certainly clawed back. Yeah, I'm with you. It's been a while since we've had a 1 versus 2 matchup. About a decade ago, Bama and LSU in that infamous 9-6 final score game. And yeah, all eyes will certainly be on Georgia and Tennessee this Saturday. As always, Jed here. We've got some headlines in our intro segment here. The big one, the one that you and I have kicked around with Owen a few times. We've discussed this. We've hinted at this. We've speculated about this, maybe is the word that I'm looking for. But the Big 12 finally now officially has a new TV contract.
Yeah, they do. Some good reporting by a handful of folks out there, including Chuck Carlton. He put together a series of tweets as the story was breaking. One of his tweets, I'll touch on some of the more salient points here. He says the new agreement will include a grant of rights through 2031. It also includes a prorated clause in case Big 12 expands further, which you have to imagine. These things are so transient by their very nature. You have to find the best way possible to be nimble as a league, because none of these things are going to stay the way they are for long. So, it's been pretty impressive. If this turns out to be the way it looks, a pretty impressive first 2-3 months on the job for Brett Yormark. I mean, what we're looking at, they expect total conference revenue distribution to rise. You're looking at 50 million per school with the new agreement. So it's going to rise, and we could actually, once all the dust settles and all the revenue streams that are tied to each school come in, it looks like we will actually, as an institution per school, make more per school after Oklahoma, Texas than we did with them, and whoever could have seen that come.
Yeah, no, it's big time. It's obviously, listen, I think if you the only way to not be excited about this new TV deal is if you try and, compare it to the one that the SEC is going to sign here before too much longer, right?
Yeah.
But realistically, this is what you wanted. You wanted that 50 million number, or at least pretty darn close in that ballpark, right? And I'm with you. I think it's a 6-year deal. Grant rights through 2031. It's not like you're locked down for the next 20 years or something like that. And like you mentioned too, it feels like more expansion is inevitable. We all know. I mean, conference realignment never stops. It's there's going to be more of this as this goes along. So realistically, I know some of the maybe some of the pessimists will say, well, hey, you're not getting what the Big Ten's getting. Hey, you're not getting what the SEC's getting. You were never going to.
No,
this, I think, this is about as realistically good as you could hope for.
Well, those leagues, especially the SEC, the Big Ten's very top heavy, but they're brimming with brand equity, right?
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is the way that Brett Yormark positioned the Big 12 was just the competitive balance of the league, especially, as he put it, without Oklahoma and Texas. This is a league that just beats itself up,
Yeah.
and it's fun to watch. So, from a TV standpoint, that's pretty captivating television, right? So, that was his pitch. And, who knows what this is going to look like, not just during the 6-year life of this deal, but maybe even a touch beyond that. Who knows what's going to play out with the ACC? Some people say it's ironclad with that grant of rights. Some people say it's not. Some people still anticipate, the top portions of the ACC to get rated by some combination of the Big Ten
Clemson and
or
North
SEC,
Carolina, and yeah,
FSU, Miami, whoever it might be.
maybe
And if
Virginia to
in
the Big
fact
Ten,
that
something like
happens, does
that.
that
Yeah.
open a door or a
Yeah.
window of opportunity to? We've heard Brett Yormark talk so much, and this is purely speculation on our part, right? That all this is. But we've heard Brett Yormark talk so much about nationalizing the Big 12, right? Well, maybe at the end of the day, in 10 years, what that looks like is, after something played out with the ACC to remove some of those, bigger brands that we talked about, that opens a door for an exit plan for some of the others. And maybe the eastern wing of the Big 12 does include the Virginia Techs and the Pitts and the Syracuses and the Louisvilles and the Boston Colleges. How cool would that be?
That's
Right.
the dream.
So now
That's the dream.
that they would be league partners. And oh, by the way, we'd also get a couple, cool trips out to the Southwest, out west against league partners as well. So who knows? But what I like about this is it's very nimble in its nature, and I'm not so sure that I've seen a conference TV deal quite as flexible as this one appears to be.
Yeah, that's well said. That's well said. Speaking of TV, we've got a kickoff time for Oklahoma. Of course, will be the penultimate home game for the Mountaineers, November 12th. Another nooner, Jed. I mean, is a 3:30 home kickoff too much to ask? Can
Well,
a guy get a 3:30? I mean, geez, Louise.
Let's start with this. That's our first use. And how many episodes? 22 episodes. So it took to episode 22 till somebody used penultimate, right? Penultimate for those scoring at home, second to last.
Second to last.
West, do you know what third to last is?
I do not.
Anti-penultimate.
Oh, interesting.
But you're right. It seems like by law, it's noon, or it's home, so we get a noon kickoff. And you know what? The chatter on TCU Twitter last week was they were really fired up and excited over the fact that they caught us with an early kickoff.
Of course.
They're like, good. We don't want to let her kick off and get those fans lathered up. We get in there.
I'm
early.
not excited to play at 3:30 at Ames. I wish that
at
was a
all.
noon
Why
kickoff in Ames.
Why can't we get a road kickoff at
every
noon instead of taking
year,
their
man.
crowd's
every
best shot?
Friggin' year.
So
now watch. We had to go play at Pitt, right, in prime time, only show in town, college game day, Thursday night. It'll be noon in Morgantown next year.
It'll be noon next year. Yep, that's what'll happen.
We'll play a night game at Penn State Labor Day weekend in the whiteout, and then we'll get Pitt at noon at home. It pisses me off so bad. It pisses me off so bad.
But yeah, another noon kickoff. So we'll have one more shot. You know, a K-State team that seems to be cresting at the right time will be the one home game remaining after the matchup against Oklahoma. So let's see.
I'm thinking now too. I mean, we had to host Virginia Tech at noon. They got us in prime time.
Yep.
It's
exactly.
It's frustrating. Now, there's no easy way to transition to this final headline. Maybe I'll say that, you know, when I'm complaining about kickoff times, this puts it in good perspective.
Yeah.
A somber week here in Mountaineer Nation. And just, you know, again, no easy way to transition into this. But, of course, James Gameter, offensive lineman for the Mountaineers, his mother, Kimberly, tragically passing away suddenly here this week. Jed, I'm sure you're more familiar with the family and some of these things, and I know you want to talk about the GoFundMe that they've set up. I'll just say I met Mrs. Gameter, Kimberly, back at the spring game in April. For anyone who's been to the spring game, you know how it kind of works. It's just first come, first serve. You can park in the blue lot. No passes, no nothing. We had a tailgate set up, and Mr. and Mrs. Gameter were actually right next to us, and we ended up hanging out with them for about a half an hour. She was hilarious. She was funny, and man, was she proud of her son. And for her to be gone now at such a young age, and you know when James is just starting his family, and she was a grandmother, it's tragic. It's sad.
It is, and you know, you put together a show like this so people can tune in and escape reality, the harsh reality of the world, and have fun and good times and joke around, and that's what we do. But also, if the show has provided us with any kind of platform to do the right thing on occasion, that's what we're going to try and do. And good folks, the Gameters. A couple of things I'd like to point out. The reason we're bringing this up is we do have a platform to kind of push you in the right direction to maybe help out in some small way. First of all, I want to bring you to James Gameter's Twitter account. Bring that to your attention. It's at Gameter74, at GMITER74. And it was on his Twitter account where he most recently posted, "My mom was one of the most caring and giving people I've ever met. She worked so hard to support us all. With her sudden and unexpected passing, a GoFundMe page was started to help support with costs and the future. If you would like to donate, the link will be attached." So that is on his Twitter account. Now, also, we're going to put it and post it and make sure it's visible on our Twitter account at In the Gut Podcast. So we'd certainly, Kimberly Gameter's GoFundMe, we'd certainly like you to do what you can, Mountaineer Nation. You always come through. You always do the right thing. You always give when you can't. Every little bit's going to matter. So, I mean, my first order of business is when I get off the podcast, I'm going to go, you know, sit down with my wife for some minute and see what we can swing their way. So, yeah, whatever you can throw their way, please check out at Gameter 74 on Twitter for James's Twitter, and at In the Gun Podcast. We're going to post it as well. But really, the reason we bring this up is to direct you to that GoFundMe for Kimberly Gameter. Please do whatever you can, if possible, to help the family out in this tough, surprising, difficult time. That's it.
I mean, it's, geez. Yeah, I mean, kids, you know, his kids now that aren't going to, you know, really get to have that relationship with their grandmother. It's just sad. She was out and about. I mean, if you're familiar with Mountaineer football, there's a chance you might have met her in the past. I mean, she was always wearing his jersey. She was at about every single game. I know she was at the Backyard Brawl up in Pittsburgh. I know she was down in Blacksburg for the Battle of the Black Diamond Trophy. So not just in Morgantown, but on the road as well too. And of course, yeah, make sure you're looking on James's page and on our social media for that link as well. And obviously, our thoughts and our prayers going out to the Gameter family in this tragic time. We're going to take a break here. When we come back on the other side, we'll start to get into some game recap stuff from this past week. We make some predictions and some projections every single week. We'll take a peek, see how we did, and we'll be joined by the beer truck himself here momentarily as well too. Jed Drenning, Wesley Euler, you are in the gun.
I'm talking with J.R. Toothman of Toothman Ford. J.R., everybody knows a lot of pro athletes buy from you. What's the secret? Just like Will Greer, future Hall of Famer Frank Gore, James Washington, and many more pros, these guys have financial advisors that are always looking out for them to save time and money, and that's why they always shop at Toothman Ford.
And what if you're like us regular folks that don't have people giving us advice?
You don't need a financial advisor. Toothman Ford will save you time and money no matter who you are. Plus, we'll buy your car even if you don't buy from us. Visit toothmanford.com and get a quick, instant cash offer.
That sounds like a score to me.
That's right. And as always, we'll take anything in trade from chicken wings to Super Bowl rings.
Toothman Ford's got a lot of fans. Here's another one, Dallas Cowboys QB Will Greer.
This is Will Greer, former West Virginia and current NFL quarterback. And cars really do cost less in Grafton at Toothman Ford.
That's a fact, Will. Thanks. You can shop online anytime at toothmanford.com.
Let's go, Mountaineer fans. You're tuned in to In the Gun with Wes, the Runaway Beer Truck, and the Signal Caller.
Back in the gun, and 2 have become 3 here. We are joined by the Runaway Beer Truck, Owen Schmidt. My dog, Big 35. What's good?
My dog, what's up?
Oh, you know, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, little Halloween. There he is.
I'm in the Halloween spirit, son.
That's fantastic.
This guy made these. He made these for me. This is his deal. Does you see it?
Mask Man.
Mask Man?
Mask Man by design. www.maskman55.com. I don't even know if he's still in business. This was back when I played in Seattle. I was like, holy crap, these are so cool. I mean, he did a real cool job.
He made that for you?
Yeah, he made these for me. He made me a Seattle one, and then he made me another one that's like white with just the blue and gold WV.
Yeah,
this one's got like my name on it. But yeah,
for really those that cool. I was just gonna say, for those that are just listening, it's a Jason mask there that Owen has that's blue and gold with the W on it. That's pretty sweet. I might have to.
It's super chill.
Get on that website, see if I can order one of those.
This would be. So now we have hockey. I played goalie. This is what my mask would look like.
Oh yeah,
straight up.
You'd be like what was his name, Ken Dryden back in the day.
Yep.
You wouldn't wear a mask. Come on.
Well, I did play goalie. You have to wear a mask, man. I mean, golly.
Come on, you're so
those badasses back in the day, though, dude.
No That's what I'm saying. You're soft. Come on.
Oh my god.
They shove newspapers down their legs for shin pads.
You know what's crazy about hockey, guys? They are absolutely nuts. And back in the day, can you imagine taking a puck right in the mouth?
Back in the day, I can't imagine today taking a puck in a route.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the goalies never even wore helmets.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Crazy.
Yeah.
There's no way.
Good point.
I mean, obviously, I would have to. You know,
that's back when there were no face masks in football, and you had
back when people actually had a pair.
You had to walk uphill to school both ways, and
I forget who it. Somebody once said. I forget who this is. I'll have to look it up. It'll bother me. But somebody once said playing football is like being in a car crash multiple times. Playing hockey is like getting stabbed every once in a while. Certainly some wild boys there. We got our wild boy Owen Schmidt back in the fold here. Folks, we make some predictions and projections every single week here on the podcast. Jed will pull up the top 25 graphic here. Just 2 games last week: Ohio State, Penn State, Kentucky, Tennessee. How'd we do?
Okay, again, looking on the left, that was our projection based on the point spread and the over-under. Looking on the right, those were the results. And, not too far off in that Ohio State-Penn State game. Penn State hung with them for a while.
They did.
I was tracking that score at the stadium. They hung with them for a while. I was glancing at it on and off during some downtimes. And we projected a 38-23 Ohio State win in Happy Valley. It turned out to be a 44-31 Ohio State win over the Nittany Lions. And then Kentucky at Tennessee. Weren't so close on this one. We projected a Tennessee win. They were favored by 12.5. We projected a 38-27 type win. They blew the doors off those Wildcats, 44-6. I mean, that was a statement game, fellas.
Yeah, up north they call that a shellacking.
That was a get out of our way. We got some Bulldogs to get to game. That's what that was, you know. So now we have the impending showdown with Uga. So that's how our top 25 projections shook out against the actual results.
Yeah, and obviously when we have our Iowa State preview episode for you later on in the week, we will talk about Vols, Dogs, 1 versus 2, the big SEC showdown coming up next Saturday. It was a big weekend across the Big 12, Jed. Some surprising results there as well, too. We'll pull up the graphic now. What are we looking at?
Again, on the left, projections that we put out last week, and the actual results are on the right. We projected a 28-27 Oklahoma win at Iowa State based on the spread, based on the over-under. It turned out to be a 27-13 Oklahoma win. Again, we've said it many times. They're a different team with Dylan Gabriel behind center. They just are. We'll be talking more about that extensively when they come to town here soon. Oklahoma State. Matter of fact, I'm going to save that for last. Baylor at Texas Tech. Okay. We projected, again, Texas Tech was favored. We projected a 34-31 Texas Tech win in Lubbock based on the point spread, based on the over-under. Baylor went into Lubbock and demolished Texas Tech 45-17. So that says a lot right there. But I mean, Baylor's a well-coached football team. They're going to win some more games. And then finally, Oklahoma State and Kansas State. This was a projected point spread of 1.5. The Wildcats were favored. We projected a 30-27 win. Not quite, folks. 48-0. It got 28-0. They jumped out. K-State did 28-0 quickly, and it got worse after that. This was the worst loss of the Mike Gundy era at Oklahoma State. I mean,
and I heard up north they call that a shellacking.
It is. It's a good shellacking too.
I mean, I'm telling you, this was just flat out. I can't account for this. I mean, again, you got that quarterback situation with Adrian Martinez, on the sideline as Will Howard steps in and he's just playing lights out football for the Wildcats. But to shut out that Oklahoma State offense, that's the part that I just I can't crack that mystery. I'm like, whoa, 48-0. Anybody that wants to call themselves an expert in this game that we know and love, they're delusional. There's no such thing as a college football expert. There's no such thing. Nobody knows anything about anybody. You don't know what team's going to show up when. You don't know when they're going to show up, how they're going to show up, how many times they're going to show up. Look at this. Quit jumping ahead of seasons on us, Owen. You guys who aren't watching or listening on audio, you're missing something
Chris
here.
Kringle in the background.
Yes, Chris Kringle and a Christmas tree, fully adorned,
decorated Christmas tree,
fully festooned behind him. Come on, it's the day after Halloween.
We're just gonna bypass Thanksgiving here. Like the poor pilgrims are just getting forgotten.
That's what I'm saying,
Hey, that's what I said. I said, good Lord. You just skipping Thanksgiving, man.
Gobble, gobble. We need some turkey first here.
Here we go.
So that's it for our predictions. We also make some that's it for our projections. We also make some predictions every single week. Jed, his signal caller of the week, where he tells us which quarterback in the conference is going to throw for the most yards. Jed, how'd you do?
Do I even need to say it? I mean, at this point, I single, I double. I'm always on the board. Who cares? I just can't knock it out of the park. I mean, I picked JT to play well against TCU, which JT did. JT threw for 275. In the first half, he had probably 60% of that. That was good enough for fourth in the Big 12. Max Duggan, we saw firsthand. He led the way. Hunter Deckers came in behind him. We'll see him this week in Ames. He had 308 yards, and then we talked about Will Howard with 296. But I was awarded 2 points in our scoring system for finishing in fourth place.
Owen, the Big 12 beer truck of the week, where Big O tells us which running back's going to run for the most yards. I tell you what, close here, Big O. I mean, top 5, 101-yard performance from your pick, Eric Gray. But Deuce Vaughn, all 5'6" of them on top of the leaderboard this week.
Yeah, who would have thought? Obviously, they absolutely just dominated this week. So, like Jed's saying, close but no cigar.
And same for me as well, too. I said Iowa State, the Cyclones, for my Big 12 defense of the week. We'll pull up the graphic right now, and you'll see here they allowed 27 points against Oklahoma. That was good for fourth in the conference, but nothing will beat a shutout. And, of course, that is what the K-State defense had against Oklahoma State. Hey, we all got points this week, boys. We're all standing on the podium. No gold medals, but we're all standing on the podium. I tell you what, we've had worse weeks. We've certainly had worse weeks.
Oh, we've had worse weeks. Yeah, we certainly have. But we'll put up the standings when we make this week's projections.
Yeah.
But anyway, I'm tired of these doubles and singles. I just
Jed's
I'm
still
tired
waiting
of
for that home run, Owen. I mean, the World Series is going to be over here in another week.
It
He's
is.
still waiting.
It sure is.
Oh, I tell you what. We got to get to another break here. When we come back on the other side, we will deep dive into the TCU recap, the good, the bad, the pivotal moments, all of that when we return on the other side. Jed Drenning, Owen Schmidt, Chris Kringle, Wesley Euler, you are in the gun. For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
For more West Virginia Mountaineer football content, be sure to follow us on Twitter @InTheGunPodcast.
Game day got you on the go? We get it. GoMart is here to keep you going all season long with stores throughout our home state. We're a proud West Virginia-owned company, and our friendly staff is committed to serving our communities. From fuel to freshly brewed coffee and snacks, a stop at GoMart to cover your game day needs is always a touchdown. Plus, GoMart Rewards members earn points with each purchase to redeem for discounts on gas and free items. So stop by, start saving, and stay on the go with GoMart.
Back in the gun here. It's time for our TCU recap, the good, the bad, the pivotal moments. Jed, I always feel like you do a pretty good job here delegating this. Where do you want to start? You want to start with the good? You want to start with the bad? Where do you want to begin here?
Start with the good. I mean, we've had a couple instances in the past that it was really difficult to come up with anything.
Tough to find some good.
At least this week there was some of that. So if you guys want to get rolling with what you thought was good, feel free, and then I'll chime in, and then we'll jump to the bad.
Big O, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought it was good that we all tied our shoelaces up tight and put our uniforms on correctly. I think that was positive that we can take into next week. Man,
it's tough because there was. I mean, there was good in that game, but it's just
there was.
When you're at where we're at now, it's tough to be optimistic.
And I spoke with Jed a little bit earlier, and and just briefly, we're playing in a good league. With that being said, we had to play good football. You can't make mistakes like we have been, and expect a different result, right? That's a definition of insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. And I felt like it was just kind of, at times, who we should be, at times who we have to forget.
Yeah. I'll go here for you, Jed, real quick. One thing that I liked was twice in the first half, in pivotal moments, the offense overcame two big mistakes. I can't remember if the first was called as holding or offensive pass interference on Bryce Ford Wheaton. It was one of the two. We were down. I can't remember if it was goal to go or if it was, we were at like the 12 or 13 yard line. But they got Bryce Ford Wheaton for that penalty, backed us up. I'm thinking, here we go, great. We're going to have to settle for a field goal in a game where field goals aren't going to win for you. They're able to overcome that setback, still find the back of the end zone. Then I believe it was 2 drives later, once again, down, getting close to the end zone, inside the red zone. Offensive line is called for holding. You set yourself back. You're thinking, oh, crap, man, we just wasted this opportunity. And I'm thinking we're going to settle for a field goal here, and this is going to be where TCU starts to pull away. So 2 big instances in the first half where the offense needed 7. They had big penalties, big setbacks. They were able to overcome that and still find the end zone. I was encouraged by that because too often we've had those false starts, those holdings, whatever they were, down near the end zone. It sets us back. We end up settling for a field goal, and then we'd look back on that at the end of the game and be like, man, that procedure penalty really cost us. That holding penalty really cost us. At least they were able to overcome that in these situations.
Yeah, I mean that's well stated, and like Owen said, I thought what you were doing was dressing the stage for a strap it on speech, Owen. A little more air in your helmets because we did play hard.
We did.
We played hard. We had some guys that were forced into action step up and contribute. Points the O line was kind of thrown together like a ransom note, glued together like a ransom note. So we had some of those guys step in place. We had some backups at various positions that were forced into duty. In the first half, we got that run game clicking before we got dinged up. They got a bit of a beat on it and made some adjustments. I mean, we had some luck with that gap scheme in the first half, Owen, and then we tried to mix in a little more zone, but they kind of pinched their front and forced, without getting too technical, they're pretty flexible in what they can do with that odd stack defense. So what they were really doing was pinching toward 8 defenders toward the box, not really in the box, but tighter run fits. So they had a nice answer as we got banged up and didn't have as many options to run with. Transition downs, when you look at a combination of 3rd down and 4th down, on 3rd down, we were 9 of 17 offensively. On 4th down, we were 2 of 3. So that's 11 of 20, 55% on transition down. That's winning football. Defensively, what you need to find is you'd start with, obviously, one more thing offensively. Let's jump back to that catch by Reese Smith was just flat out incredible. I mean, that was the definition of toughness right there. I mean, that was the definition of toughness, how he held onto that football on that scoring strike. But defensively, the goal line stand could have been a really critical juncture in that football game. They had a 1st and goal at the 1. Raise your hand if you thought we had any chance of stopping them there. And yet we found a way to at least hold them to a field goal and hold serve and put us back in position to do something with the football. But that's what I'd say from the positive side. Now we can, transition right into some of the negative things. Obviously, the explosive plays that we allowed. Big plays that we allowed. I mean, again, I was telling Wes, as you watch the tape, Owen, I was watching play number 40 from the TCU offense. It was the first play of the 4th quarter. Okay. They just made so many big plays. They weren't on the field very long. Right now, a lot of that was miscommunication, breakdown on the back end. Those are the types of things that frustrate you. There were coverage lapses. There was times when we didn't tackle well, and that created some of it as well. And one of the big things to me is it's just failed opportunities, whether it was coming off the turnover, off the fumbled punt that they had, the muffed punt that we recovered. We didn't make the most of that situation. There were many times that defensively we knocked TCU off schedule Okay. We had them way behind the sticks, especially in the first half. I mean, I'd look up and it was 2nd and 19. And the next thing you know, it doesn't matter. They're still moving the sticks and making a big play. We had them on a 3rd and long. We had them on a 1st and long. Several times we had them exactly where you want to put an offense like that and made nothing out of it. We let them build themselves out, let them wiggle off the hook by making a play. But those were the frustrating parts to me, to name a few.
Yeah. And once again, brief moments with Jed. And I was down actually in South Carolina, and I was watching the game with a bunch of older players: Mike Collins, Aaron Beasley, Brian Joswiak,
Nice.
Stills was there, Major was there, and talking to Darius before the game a little bit, and just because he's current, or as current as you can get with the program. And just asking him where he thinks some of the shortcomings are. And I'll start with what I spoke with Jed actually before this, was just it's starting to be a common theme, a trend that obviously our secondary is banged up, but kind of like what we were talking about was, I don't see maybe so much the emphasis on the development of trying to get those guys on board, so that we're eliminating at least some of the bleeding during the game, right? And I spoke briefly with Darius before the game on who is going to step up as the leader here and right this ship, right? Who's going to take control? Some of this is coaching. Some of this, like we said, I thought we did play tough at times. But who is going to be the guy who's going to step up in the locker room, right, to get it righted? And those are just some things that I don't see, that we're just not correcting in order to play well, because we have to, right? We can't just get by in this Big 12.
Yeah. Got to be buttoned up in the margins. Can't beat yourself. You got to play clean. Jed, I think that's one of the things you mentioned a few times when we were doing the TCU preview episode. Got to play clean.
Yeah.
And that's just, again, particularly against a top 10 team in the country, those are the margins of victory and defeat.
And playmakers are playmakers. I mean, to Owen's point, you have Charles Woods is not at full capacity. He's not there yet. I mean, again, he's playing with this big taped ankle that looks like he has a 3-wood taped to that thing. Okay. And he's getting more snaps and more production each week. He played in Lubbock. He
almost
played
had a pick six on the first
almost
drive
had
of the
a pick
game there.
six, but even that Charles Woods, okay, I felt coming into the season he might be the best or one of the best, certainly one of the better cover corners in the entire Big 12 conference. That's why that was such a big loss for us, because had you had that guy, you could kind of kick your coverage a certain way away from him. But even in that role, Owen, if you're studying what's going on defensively, he was the only guy that really seems to at times jump out at you. I mean, it's just playmakers stand out, and Charles is a playmaker. And there's just something about the nature of a guy with that kind of edge that we're talking about, that I mean, that's exactly what you're referring to there, Owen. Is a guy in the locker room, a guy on the field that you can turn to, that's going to take you places you can't go on your own, right? And Charles is getting back to that. He's getting stronger each week. He's getting more reps each week. But it's just, what strikes me is how much playmakers do stand out. And here you have one in limited capacity, not at full strength, but he's still a playmaker. And he's still standing out amongst the defensive crowd out there, right? So it does matter. Yeah, of course it matters.
Yeah, well said. All right, boys, let's get to our pivotal moments here. These, of course, brought to you by our friends at High Street Prints. Make sure you're checking them out, highstreetprintshop.com, for all of your printing and merchandise needs. Of course, they do all of our gear, itgfootball.com, if you're looking for some hoodies, some polos, some T-shirts, some hats, all your good in the gun merchandise you can find there, brought to you by our friends at High Street Prints. Who's going first here? You want me to go? You guys want me to go first on this one, pivotal moments?
Hit her, Wes.
All right, I was real tempted here. I was. Because I'm watching this game, the second half on the plane, flying out to Philly, of course, for my duties with the Steelers radio network. And, man, we had another one of those TCU moments, right? You think back to Clint Trickett getting his helmet ripped off and nothing called. You think back to David Sills getting mugged and somehow they call him for offensive pass interference in 2017. For whatever reason, I expect it when we play Oklahoma, right? Like when they call TJ Simmons for blocking a guy too well out of bounds on a play that results in a 14-point swing in a game that we lose by 3 points. Not that I'm still angry. I expect it against Oklahoma, all right? I don't expect it against TCU. They joined the conference when we did. They're not a Big 12 traditional power. They're not a long-standing Big 12 program. But for some reason, we always have one of these moments against TCU, and everybody knows what I'm referencing. Bryce Ford Wheaton, or Caden Prather it was, sorry, gets his jersey pulled, and there's no pass interference or holding called on TCU. JT fumbles the next play on one of those. If they would have called it an incomplete pass, it would have upheld, right? It wasn't the call was confirmed. It was the ruling was upheld when they reviewed that fumble by JT, and then a 51-yard touchdown run the next play. So that very easily could have been a 14-point swing. I mean, you connect with KP there, or you at least get the 15-yard penalty. All of a sudden, JT fumbles the next play. 2 plays later, 51-yard touchdown run for TCU. That's a massive swing. That's a massive moment. But the more that I thought about it, that's not my pivotal moment. Was that a horse hockey call for us? Yes, absolutely. Was that the reason that we lost the game? No, it was not. And I can't continue to do this. We do this too much, and sometimes rightfully so, but we do this too much as sports fans, particularly football fans, not just WVU fans, not every fan base. In the NFL and in college, every time they lose, it's always the ref's fault. I'm not doing that. I'm not seeking comfort in that regard. That's not me, and it drives me crazy when people do that. That was a BS moment. That was a big moment, but we still had opportunities to overcome it. My pivotal moment, twice in the red zone in the third quarter, we had the ball and we scored 3 points. 2 red zone trips in the third quarter, and we came out of those 2 with 3 points. That can't happen, period, in this conference, but particularly against a team like TCU, particularly at home where you're not battling the crowd either there. You're only going to get so many chances against a team like TCU. Like I said earlier, we knew field goals weren't going to get it done in this game. You had to score touchdowns. You can't have empty possessions against a team like TCU, particularly in the red zone. You've got to score when you get down there. In the third quarter, when you're going toe-to-toe with TCU, I mean, you're hanging in there. They're throwing blows. You're absorbing them. You're punching back. They're absorbing them. I mean, it was a heavyweight fight there for a while. It felt to me like it really turned. Those 2 red zone trips in the third quarter, you only come away with 3 points, and that's when it felt like TCU started to settle down. We're going to win this game, and it might be a little close for comfort, but we're just fine here. Just don't blink. We're going to be all right. That was my pivotal moment. 2 third quarter red zone possessions. You only score 3 points.
Yeah, Wes, I'm 100% with you there, brother. I think we talked about that in the preview, some as well. And that's kind of what we've struggled with. Not so much scoring the points. I mean, we've scored points. I mean, we scored a healthy amount of points.
Absolutely.
But they're the number 7 team in the country, in your house. You got them where you want them, and just not being able to capitalize, it just hurts you. It's unfortunate, but we have to figure out a way when we're down there to put it in.
Got to punch it in, man.
I'm 100% with you on that, brother.
Jedgar?
Yeah, that's frustrating and that's difficult. I think there were a couple sequences to me that in the fourth quarter, the one's more obvious than the other. One of the sequences was we were down 31-24, and we had the ball at our own 25, and we got a quick 3 and outs that included a sack. Okay. That's a football that I think, JT, again, I'm studying it here, and he was faced with some pretty immediate pressure, but he had a chance to pump that thing, get rid of it, and come back to fight another day. But instead, he tried to shake free, and it didn't work out, and that led to a 3rd and long, which led to a forced punt. But the more obvious one is following the big goal line stand. Okay, we had a ton of momentum. Okay, we held them to the situation that we held them to, and we got the football back, and then we bounced back and we forced the turnover, the Malachi Ruffin pick later in the quarter, later in the half. Well, Malachi picks that ball right in front of our half, and our sideline just ignited. Okay, so that was the peak of all the momentum we had all night, was at that point in a 34-31 game. We'd forced them into a 3rd and long. The crowd was into it. The crowd was energized. The crowd impacted the play. The defense made a play. And the next thing you know, we got the football at our own 16-yard line, down 3 against the number 7 ranked team in the country. There's your opportunity, right? 1st and 10. We send Sam on a deep cross, and we run a deep route concept. Now, a couple things want to foul on that play. First of all, I thought JT might have had an opportunity to find Sam on that crosser. Now, the protection could have held up for an extra beat longer than it did. Let's revisit this, though. Not an excuse. You have Brandon Yates playing right guard. This is a situation stitched of necessity. Ideally, he's a tackle, but we're in less than ideal ground right now. So now you're shuffling your tackles inside to play guard just because you're so dinged up and you're down so many. So they get in on JT just a touch faster than they otherwise maybe could have. And I think that impacted his ability to ID Sam on that crosser. You're looking at a 20-yard completion to start that drive. Instead, you force JT to the wide side of the field to the check down. Jalen doesn't make the catch. And now you find yourself 2nd and 10. Well, the play selection I didn't question through the sequence here. It was the execution I questioned. A lot of times throughout the course of this day, we had an incompletion on 1st down. We came back out, ran the football on 2nd down to get back on schedule, and then put ourselves in a manageable 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, and it converted. That's why we had such success, as we talked about earlier, on 3rd down. We stayed ahead of schedule by running the football on 2nd and long to get back on schedule. In this particular situation, we tried to do the same thing. And again, you're talking about a kid in Jalen Anderson. CJ's now knocked out of the game. Jalen, there's only so many reps in practice to go around, right? Jalen didn't have those reps. He doesn't read that the same way. In addition to that, Jamoy Hodge for TCU did a great job of reading and reacting and shooting that gap. And the next thing you know, it's a 4-yard loss. And now we're 3rd and 14. And you're in a very desperate situation. We had every intention of treating that as 4-down territory. Every intention offensively. But now when you find yourself an incompletion on 3rd and 14, and it's 4th and 14, if you're playing the obvious odds or even the less than obvious odds, now you got to punt. Okay, you got all 3 timeouts left. So to me, that sequence was frustrating. More specifically, not just the 4-yard loss on 2nd down, but I thought we were a whisker away from a big opportunity on 1st down. I thought we had a good call. We had, by and large, pretty good execution. Sam was shaking open into that crease in that zone on the backside. He was slipping in behind the coverage. TCU wasn't entirely alert to what was unfolding there. I thought JT was a half a beat away. He's seen that a million times this year. He was half a beat away from identifying that throw. And right as he would ordinarily do so, that tackle did a good job of fighting back inside Owen and getting right up in JT's grill to distract his vision and force him to his safety valve, his check down to the field, instead of sitting there for that half a beat longer. Oh, he did break open. Wham, 20 yards. Heck of a way to start the drive. But instead, it's an incompletion. Downstream from that's the 4-yard loss. Downstream from that's the incompletion on 3rd down and then the punt. To me, that was the pivotal moment. What I would turn to, that's my pivotal moment. But I also want to address one other thing. And Wes, you talked about it. the frustrating thing was we had some of the non-calls, but those don't lose you games. Strangely, you and I are both frustrated about the same specific one. I think the one that,
it was
that may have cost you a game was the non-OPI that they called. They called an offensive pass interference when David Sills had his jersey ripped off.
It was unbelievable.
On what would have been the drive to tie the game.
That might have been worse than the Clint Trickett one. I mean, it might have been.
I mean, that was
again. I expect that when we're playing Oklahoma or Texas, not friggin' TCU.
Well, I'm getting way out in the weeds here, but in that game, we were down 7. The game was on the line. They were a top 10 team. You had no chance to make up for that missed opportunity. It was stolen from you right there. You're driving to tie the game. You get your jersey yanked, and they call OPI on you, and it's over. But I thought in this situation, when you had the non-call on KP, and I think Tony, as descriptive as he always is, he said it looked like the visionary that he provided for the radio audience was it looked like the DB was grabbing taffy. Because, again, when you watch the play on tape, he stretched KP's jersey.
It was like in Little Giants where the kids' gloves are sticking together.
Yeah. So if you go revisit that sequence,
oh God,
look, what we got to get better at. These things are going to happen. You're going to have wretched calls go against you. Okay. I remember going out for the coin toss at the 50. And when I saw whose crew that was, my immediate reaction was, oh boy. Okay. I mean, this is the same crew. Everybody struggled with this crew before. It's the same crew that last week flagged Oklahoma State 14 times and Texas 0 times in the same game. So that was my first reaction.
But you know what? You know who won that game?
Oh yeah.
The team that got flagged 14 times because they're the better
that's right.
team.
The team that got flagged 14 times. Well, Texas got flagged 14 times.
Oh, well,
that's what it was. It was the other way around.
Okay, forget I said that. Strike that from the record.
Yeah, and in part because of that. But I'm glad you said that because my first thought was I saw the crew in the coin toss and I thought, oh boy, it's them. Okay. And my second thought was, should I start a rumor that TCU's leaving the Big 12 to go to the SEC? Maybe they'll give us 14 flags against none, But yes, should that have been, a pass interference call? Absolutely. Yeah, but the 100%. Larger lesson to be learned is this. We have to overcome adversity. And instead of overcoming adversity, that put us in a 2nd and 10 situation, and we didn't handle that well. I mean, after that, Sam had the false start. Next thing you know, in part because of that, it's 3rd and 11 instead of 3rd and manageable because of a self-inflicted penalty. The false start wasn't a made-up call. The false start only happened because it was after the non-PI call. The PI you can't do anything about. It should have been called. But control what you can control. And what you can control was how you respond to that non-call. Yep. Don't false start and put yourself in a 3rd and 11. So now your quarterback has to hold on to the ball for an extra beat and get it stripped. If it's 3rd and 6, your quarterback's not holding on to the ball for that extra beat. The ball's gone. The ball's out. So what I look at that big picture is, was it a bad call? It was a wretched call. It was a wretched non-call. But to me, the larger lesson there is you've got to do a much better job at handling that kind of frustration and adversity and overcoming it. I mean, Owen, stop and think about it. We could probably get granular with this and go back to the 2007 season, the 2005 season, whatever you wanted to do. And over the course of winning 10, 11 games, I mean, how many times in each of those games did something go against you, right? Well, you can't let something go against you and then follow it with something else going against you that's self-inflicted. Okay. You got to find a way to overcome the things that you didn't put against you to begin with. If you didn't do it, fine, you didn't do it. Now don't hurt yourself in addition to that, right? Yep. And that's kind of what played out. We put ourselves in a worse situation because we didn't appropriately handle that adversity and try and overcome it.
Yeah,
that's what I walk away from that situation thinking.
Keeping the poise and the composure, right? Being able to put yourself in check in the heat of the moment. And okay, next play, man. That one's over. Next play. I think the best teams, they just know how to get over it, man. They just, all right, next play. I mean, the best coaches are going to tell you, look, man, Good or bad. Good or bad, right? Next play. Move on. Penalties, like you said, are going to happen. Penalties against yourself are going to happen. Okay. But, you got to get over it. And that's what I'm saying. When you say play clean, right? And I say, all right, we need to eliminate the mental errors. Those are the mental errors that kill you, right? So can't have a snowball effect.
That's what you can't have. And you have to find a better way to handle that kind of adversity, and I mean, what you want to see is, again, that was one of a couple calls that could have gone against you, and you didn't handle that adversity well. The other one would have been the non-PI in the end zone against KP. Again, in a perfect world, you can't control that. Okay. I mean, it's the coach's job to argue the call. I mean, just like a manager argues with an umpire, you're not going to overturn that call. What you're hoping for is to build enough collateral. That's right. The next call, that's how that works. And any savvy coach knows that. But you know how you handle adversity? Okay. Here's how you handle adversity. TCU, and one of the reasons they're the number 7 ranked team in the country, okay, is you had this muffed punt, debated all the live long day. I can kind of walk you through what happened there and why it was called the way it was called. I think at the end of the day, they got it right, not because it went in favor of us, but you had a situation there where the way the rule is explained in the NCAA rule books in terms of interfering with a punt returner, kick returner, he is allowed an unimpeded chance to catch the punt or the kick. Okay. In that instance, Sam James hit him because Sam James was knocked into him by a TCU player. What's left out of the equation, the TCU player knocked Sam into the return man because Bryce Ford Wheaton was wearing out the TCU player. So the rule doesn't really expand to that third person. I mean, a big thing in the NFL today is it's a more contemporary thing in the last couple of years. They coach you to block people into the punt returner, but I digress. But the point I'm trying to make with this is that was an incredibly adverse situation for TCU. Their defense was thrust on the field with the stadium going crazy and the other offense all of a sudden in scoring position. What did they do? They bowed up and they held us to a field goal. That's how you handle adversity. That's why they're the number 7 team in the country, right? I mean, that was the fundamental difference. The way they handled their adverse situations versus the way we handled some of them. But listen to you.
Owen's just back there just rocking around the Christmas tree. He's trying to get through it any way that he can. I don't blame him.
It's just tough. It's tough, like I said. And here's the thing. When you're in a season like this, things just don't seem like they're going our way.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It just adds the fuel,
Well, we hope so. We hope we can take out some of those frustrations this weekend in Iowa State. Obviously, we will have a full Cyclones preview for you before Jed jets off to Ames. But those were, once again, our pivotal moments and some other analysis there brought to you by our friends at High Street Prints, highstreetprintshop.com. We got to take one more quick break here. When we come back, we'll close this thing down. We'll tell you what we got going on for the rest of the week. We'll give some final thoughts, all that good stuff before we get out of here. You are in the gun. For nearly 20 years, Fortis has been the nation's leader in providing guaranteed roof performance programs for commercial buildings. Fortis offers roof performance solutions that feature extensive initial and ongoing reconditioning for commercial buildings as an alternative to traditional replacement, with long-term performance guarantees that are backed by global leader Lloyd's of London. Fortis offers a comprehensive range of roof performance management programs that provide financial security, extend the life of our customers' roofs, and make a significant impact on ROI. Fortis is currently improving performance and increasing ROI for customers at more than 4,800 locations, with more than 140 million square feet protected, including many Fortune 500 companies that have turned to Fortis to save money, gain financial certainty, and extend the life of their existing roofs. Fortis has helped customers save more than $520 million in capital roof replacement costs for an average ROI of over 250%. To learn more, visit fortis.us.com. Fortis, roof performance and financial certainty guaranteed.
Mountaineer Nation, have you visited us online? For great gifts and gear and our entire episode playlist, check out itgfootball.com.
Final segment here in the gun as we wrap up this TCU recap. Thanks again to our new friends at Bet Online for presenting this episode. Make sure you go into betonline.ag for all of your sports betting needs. Gentlemen, we'll be back in just a couple days here. What's so funny, Jed? Are you laughing at Owen? Listen, I know I plug our YouTube page at the end of every episode, and this is the end of every episode, so maybe we can just do this organically here. You got to see Owen. I mean, he's got Kris Kringle in the background. He's got multiple different Christmas trees. We think he just walked into somebody's house in Nutter Fort down there and just made himself at home.
He's in Nutter Fort.
Made himself at home all of a sudden. He found Kris Kringle's house down there. So you got to watch this one on YouTube in the Gun podcast.
Here we are on Halloween night taping. Okay, we're going to drop November 1st, and he's sitting there with Santa Claus. I mean, come on, man. Let Halloween breathe, you know?
He just gave Thanksgiving. He gave Thanksgiving the miss, I tell you.
I'm becoming more convinced you could blindfold Owen, spin him in a circle, and drop him out of a C-130 anywhere in West Virginia. And in 10 minutes, he'll walk into a house and be able to film the podcast there. It doesn't matter where he is. I don't care if in Nutter Fort, Harrison County, he could be in Wetzel County. I'm sure he'd probably be at my neighbor's house in Tucker County and Davis. It makes no difference. Any of the 55 counties in West Virginia. He's a Kramer in 55 counties. You know,
Listen, Jed, I'm here to ask Kris Kringle for a wish. Okay. I'm all for this. I'm just wishing for a WVU win.
There we go.
Okay. Amen. That's all I'm asking for. I feel like I've been a good boy. Okay. Well, I'm not going to get cold this year.
I plead the fifth on that. Well, the fifth is about self-incrimination. So actually, let me talk. All right. Okay.
Oh gosh, I love it. We got to get out of here, but we'll be wishing for that Iowa State victory. Again, we'll have a preview episode for you guys. I'll drop on Thursday as we get ready for that road trip to Ames. Difficult place to play. 3:30 kickoff on Saturday, November 5th. And we'll have the full preview for you later on in the week. Make sure you're rocking and rolling with us on all of our social media. In the Gun Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, visual element, so you can see Owen hanging out with the good Saint Nick on YouTube. And thanks to everybody who helps make this possible for us. And we'll talk again soon here in the next couple days. For Jed Drenning, the signal caller, and Owen Schmidt, the runaway beer truck and the best friend of Kris Kringle. I'm Wesley Euler. Thanks for listening. Be an ear and tell an ear about your new favorite WVU football podcast. And we'll be back in just a few days to talk about those Cyclones. Thanks, everybody. You've been In the Gun.